Hello. So the other day I was called into a meeting because, I got a phone call from somebody who has heard about me from somewhere, from somebody, and they asked me to come into a meeting with them to discuss a few business opportunities and just to see if ways in which we can work together in 2017 to make money. And I mean, I obliged because I'm always happy to meet with people. It's my thing. And I'm like, you know what? I'll give you my ear. I'll listen. And maybe I'll find an opportunity, in whatever it is that you want to do. Just a side note, guys, stop inviting people to meetings and having AMA talk shops and nothing comes out of it. Can we just drop that in 2017? Because it's actually very annoying. But in case, I digress. So I sat with this gentleman and he introduced himself, told me about, his life, where he comes from. And I listened, and as I was listening, he started talking about, all these white entrepreneurs. He was talking about Christoph Wiese, Johann Rupert. He mentioned a few that I don't know. He talked about how he looks up to Elon Musk. And I'm like, oh, okay, very interesting, very sturdy type of guy. Looks like he's been doing a bit of reading. And then I asked him a question. I said, so what do you think about capitalism? And he looked at me and he was like, well, look, I don't really like the idea of capitalism. And I was like, okay, sharp. That's a bit weird. And then I asked him again, asked him another question. I was like, what do you think about rich people? And he was like, doesn't really like rich people. They come across as arrogant and, rich people just tend to think like they're better than people and all sorts of things. And he feels that some of his friends that have become rich over the years have kind of changed. Now, I have a problem with that. I have a serious problem with that. Now, and I'll tell you what my problem is. I mean, first and foremost, capitalism is a system that allows you and me, people who want to get into business, to own our businesses and actually trade privately without having to kind of like belong or have part ownership or go into a partnership with the government. So for me, it's a bit like, it was a bit weird. I was like, okay, so you want to be a businessman, but you don't believe in capitalism. Weird. Then number two, I was like, okay, so you want to be going to business and you want to make money and then eventually become a rich person, but you don't like rich people. That doesn't make sense because ultimately what you're saying is that you are not going to like yourself. And that for me is a bit weird. And then I started thinking when I got home that, there's a thing about becoming rich. There's a thing about making money and it's called a mentality shift. It's called changing your psyche. You almost kind of like have to prepare yourself when you want to become rich because it's a very big responsibility because in life you can only have two problems. I mean, well, financially for me, I feel you can only have two problems. You either have no money or not enough money, or you have too much money. And those are the only two problems that exist in my life. And really, I don't want to be on the other side. I don't want to be that person that doesn't have enough money for certain things. So I would rather much have too much money and become that arrogant, rich person who apparently has changed. And let me tell you, if you have more money than what you had last year and you have not changed, something is wrong with you because you're lying. You are lying. But anyway, that's not the important part of this whole conversation. So it as I said, it made me start thinking about the kind of psychology and the kind of thinking of rich people or people who make money, millionaires. Let's for the instance of this video called The Millionaires. Let's say you want to become a millionaire. Now, I know it's not everybody's dream to become a millionaire, which is weird if you don't want to become rich and you want to become a millionaire or whatever, but it's a bit weird if you're that type of person. But in any case, different strokes for different folks. Now, the one thing that I always realize about people who are millionaires or are striving to become millionaires or are very close to becoming millionaires, they've got this arrogance in them. They've got this arrogance to believe that they deserve to be rich. And if you are that type of person that doesn't have that arrogance and that belief that you actually should be making money or you deserve to be a millionaire, you will never be a millionaire. I'm not lying to you, Struce Bob. You will never be a millionaire. Because if you are that type of person that actually does not believe in something, you don't believe in who you are. Because for you to believe in something, you got to start living it. I'm not saying become a shit person. But I'm saying there's a bit of a shift in mentality for you to become a rich person. Now, I'll give you an example. Some of us want to be, millionaires generally are resourceful people. and they add value. And for you to be able to make money, you need to add some kind of value. You need to be resourceful. You know what I mean? But now, here's the problem. Some of us are not even resourceful in our own jobs that we currently hold. We're not adding value. Yes, you do your job each and every single day, but you're actually not resourceful. There are people that I've worked with in big corporates, like people that I know who have worked in big corporates. I've worked with some of them, people who are my friends, who don't even know or have never met their CEO. They've never had a one-on-one with their CEO. How is that possible? You've never had a one-on-one with the CEO of your own company? That guys makes me very, like, what? How is that possible? How do you set yourself different from the rest of everybody else? The rest of all the other marketing reps in your company, the rest of all the other, auditors in your company, the rest of all the other attorneys in your company. How do you separate yourself from those people who are also doing their job? They're 9-to-5s. They're going in, they're clocking in, they're doing their job, and they're leaving and they're getting their salary. How do you then differentiate yourself if you've never even sat with your CEO? Some of you guys don't know if your companies are willing to pay for you to upskill yourself, to go and study that additional qualification so that you can move yourself from A to B. Some of you don't know. And you don't know, not because they don't offer it at the company. You don't know because you've never stepped into HR to ask them. The only time you step into HR is to ask them about policies. What is the company's policy on hair? What's the company's policy on social media? What's the company's policy on sexual harassment? And I'm not saying don't report sexual harassment, but I'm saying that why leave it to a part where you speak to HR to when things are kind of negative? Why are you not walking into HR and saying, okay, so I need to have a meeting with you and my line manager so I can get an understanding of how do I move myself? How do I become more resourceful in this company? And it's unfortunate that when you are an employee, your time is actually your commodity. And I've spoken about this before to say you are running your own business as an employee. You are selling your time to your company. You are charging your company a salary based on how much time you are giving them. Yes, sometimes it's not fair. Sometimes they don't pay you enough. Oh, well, whatever. You didn't negotiate properly. You need to go back to the drawing board and negotiate. But the reality is that you have a commodity which you're selling. So therefore, you actually are a business person. Now, my question is, how do you know how to make your time more valuable? If you've never spoken to your line manager, you've never spoken to HR, maybe it lies in you just getting a better qualification. And you don't know if the company is happy to pay for it because you've actually never asked. You know what I mean? So it's those things that you kind of start to understand about people who make more money, people who are millionaires. I learned this very valuable lesson when I started working at my previous company. I've now left the company. I started off in 2013 on a 12,000 Rand salary. Over the years, when I left that company, I was earning over 100,000 Rand per month. And that's because I became more resourceful in my job. I became a valuable asset. Well, look, what they think about me right now is irrelevant because I did leave. But the reality is that you need to become more resourceful. I'm just giving you guys an example of how you become more resourceful in a company. You need to speak to the people. You need to add value. So now, that's the thing. That's the kind of thinking that people who make money have. People who make money understand being resourceful and creating value. But people who make money also understand that fear is not going to assist them. People who make money they understand that group thinking, that group mentality type of thing. You need to put that shit aside. You need to go out and find ways in which you can make money on your own, first and foremost. Then that's when you can bring in other people to try and kind of create that value chain and whatever it is that you need to do. Then, the other thing that I've realized about people who make money is the fact that people who make money or millionaires have gotten over that victim type of mentality. Because, especially as Black people in South Africa, it's easy for us to, dwindle down and become these victims of circumstances. And yes, granted, we don't all come from these rich families. I personally don't come from a rich family. I mean, look, I come from Bushbuckridge or Mpengachachi village. And maybe in Mpengachachi, I was one of the better off families. But I don't come from a rich family. I failed my degree at some point, So I also had my own circumstances. You know what I mean? I struggled, Nami. I went through the phase of struggling and I could have become a victim. But I decided to change my mentality, because how do you become rich if you are a victim at the same time? Because you victimizing yourself is actually what blocks you from actually making money. Because first and foremost, you think the world deserves, or the world owes you something, and you deserve, the world to be nice, the world to be kind. The world is not going to be kind to you. You need to go out and create those opportunities. You need to go out and make those opportunities for you to be able to make money. So the other thing that I've gotten to learn about people who make money or millionaires is that they've learned to understand a very simple notion about life. They've come to understand that a person can either be their own biggest liability or their own biggest asset. So you as a person can either be a liability or you can be an asset. And you need to make that choice right now, today, to decide whether you are going to become a liability to yourself. Because, everybody understands what a liability. A liability is something that takes money out of them, takes money out of your pocket, and an asset is something that gives you money and then ultimately works towards growing your net worth. So you need to ask yourself, what type of person are you? Are you a liability or are you an asset? And then my closing remarks for this video specifically are that you need to think big as a person. If you want to make money, you need to think big. I learned this notion from a gentleman who was doing a TED talk. I can't for the life of me remember his name, so I don't want people to say I'm plagiarizing, so I'm referencing him. I kind of forgot his name. And he talks about the big concept or the big notion, BIG. First and foremost, for you to be able to become an asset, you need to read some books. Because we don't all know everything. Nobody knows everything. Even the people themselves who write the books don't know everything. But there's obviously something that they can teach you. So read books. Read as many books as possible. If anything, it doesn't teach you anything about business and about money, I promise you it'll better your grammar. And I need it, so I'm going to keep reading the books. Then number 2, it's the I for individuals. The people that you keep around you. Those people will determine whether or not you are going to become an asset in your life or a liability. There are people who just take out money. Those friends who make you buy alcohol. Those friends who want to go out to lunches and they call them business lunches, but you never discuss business. I'm not saying don't enjoy the pleasures of life, but don't keep individuals that are constantly creating a liability out of you. And the last one is the G. These are the goals that you set. Did you set your goals this year? Do you know what your financial goals are for the year? Do you know what your financial goals are for the next 10 years? Your next 5 years? I've been walking around telling people arrogantly also that I'm going to own 10 properties by the age of 30. I don't even know how I'm going to get that right. But best believe it's going to happen. Because it has to happen. I don't have a choice. It must happen, because that's ultimately what I have said for myself. That is my financial goal. By the age of 30, I need to have 10 properties. I'm already on 3. So 7 more to go. I'm turning 30 next year, September. So basically, I have a few months to go for me to get those properties, but it's going to happen. So do remember that big notion and try by all means to see if you can live your life using that simple idea of BIG. Do you remember that on the 4th of February, we've got a free powwow session at the venue still yet to be confirmed. It will be on the page, so stay tuned in on the page. You will know where we are. But it is the 4th of February. That date is definitely confirmed, and we will have somebody talking on personal finances and the market, so generally the economy. I will be giving a bit of a background of who I am, where I come from, and that question about how I bought my properties cash and how I ended up paying off my debt, I will also touch on that. And then we've got somebody who will be talking about investments and savings and what is the best way for you to save your money and reduce any tax obligations. Mwah! See you guys on the 4th of February.